Arjun thought he had lost the ability to be surprised from anyone. Now he thought he had seen enough, and he just wanted to go home, curl into a ball in his cot, and rest forevermore. They were standing in one of the rooms in Ratri's house, concealing much from her as the candles burnt and gave light to the dim room. Arjun stood there in the corner, his fingers over his hips, the sickle dangling from his leather belt. He knew it wouldn't be easy, but the idea of battling Rakshas again was daunting. He had seen what they were capable of doing. His very bones shivered as images of the grueling bloody soul of Shambhala came to his mind. We need more help, Padma said. She had a way with words in terms of not just what she spoke but also the way she spoke. It was a dialect Arjun was not familiar with. It reminded him of the south, the way Rakshas spoke, but the Rakshas had a deeper cadence to their pronunciation. What about secretly getting it? Bala asked. Secrecy won't help. Padma shook her head, showing the diagram she had made while scouting the entire mudkeep. Arjun saw the rough design, and to his surprise it was well made. Padma had a way with her hands as well, but then Arjun merely shook his head, finding himself too easily impressed with anything the girl did or said. Lately the diagram showed the structure of the keep. It was closed from all sides, just like the prison, with no ceiling on the top. It was supported by arches and guarded by constantly stationed guards inside, Shuko had told Padma and Arjun. There was a dome-like structure under which the Soma was probably kept. Most probably we think that's where it is, but we need to scout, and we won't be able to scout if we don't have more people we can ask. Ratri, Bala said again. Arjun glanced at him keenly, for Bala had gone red, mentioning Ratri. That was odd, since Arjun had seen Bala and Ratri talking often, although Bala hardly seemed the romantic sort. But then again, Arjun was so caught up in his own contrivances that he had forgotten that surrounded him. Bala added, we hide too much from her. Everyone look who's feeling guilty now. Kripa rolled his eyes. Anyone else who gives a darn, or is it just him? Arjun did consider the possibility of telling it Ratri, but it would heed no fruit. What do you suggest? Arjun asked, looking at how Padma pulled out a gold coin, seemingly old-fashioned, and began to rub the edges of it, playing around. We hire people, she announced. Who would that be, lass? Kripa asked. I'm sure we can't find anyone who's as strong as a Rakshas. Padma nodded. We can't, but we can find those who are not as afraid of them. She paused, taking a deep breath, as if summoning her energies to speak up before finally uttering, Lechas. Arjun stood there frozen for a moment, wondering whether she had said what he had heard. He looked at Kripa, who also stared agape, while Bala just shook his head, shrugged, and sat down on the ground. Arjun couldn't believe the mention of Mlechas would come yet again in his lifetime. No, anything else, but not this. Arjun was stern as he watched Kripa. Don't you have any other plans than making Astras out of Soma? Nothing of consequence, mate. Kripa was still thoughtful. This is not going well. Arjun sat with Bala. Padma looked at them incredulously. What is your problem with the Mlechas? They attacked us, those pussies, exclaimed Bala. They killed Arjun's father even. There was not even a hint of sorrow in Padma's eyes. Yeah, and my brothers were killed, and I have been trying so hard ever since to avenge them, and look where I am, stuck with wimps who can't get over their prejudices and grief. She eyed Arjun carefully, and then she knelt down, reaching out for him. I know you have apprehensions about the Mlechas. Yes, agreed, they aren't good as individuals, but we don't need good men on our side right now. We need evil to fight evil. Where do you hope to find these Mlechas? Taverns, where they are often drinking and loitering. She showed the coin she had been playing with. We can sell this off to an antique store and get a good amount out of it to rent the Mlechas. Arjun thought for a moment. He didn't like the idea at all, and for a moment he was thinking of all the other possibilities that could work, but then none of it really seemed as feasible to him. He knew if he would go for the direct entry to the prison, the Nagas would kill him instantly. They were quite brutal last time, and his ankle was still bruised and tender. The scar on Arjun's face burned. It reminded him of the time Keshav Nand had sliced it, testing the very limits of his capacity to bear pain with equanimity. And he knew at that moment he needed someone like that on his team. The Rakshas were similar to Mlechas, remorseless. All right, Arjun nodded. Arjun had just entered the tavern when he noticed the Mlechas. Even from afar, the tavern hadn't been the dingy place he had expected, like the Madiras Chalais. Arjun laid his eyes on the counter where all the drinks were made. But that wasn't the surprising part. It was surprising, however, that the one who made drinks was a Gandhalv. Gandhalvs were almost white-skinned, with pale, lilac eyes. Their faces had straight, conical noses and they were very good when it came to appeasing the rulers. It was written in history that the original Gandharvas were servants for Indra and worked with him. Arjun also happened to see the absolutely mesmerizing Apsaras, who were walking, enticing the different men and women in the tavern. They weren't distinguishable from their counterparts, the Gandharvas, but they were attractive. All of them. He tried to look away, but they all came to Arjun, flocking around him while Arjun shrugged them off. They were the minute Tiavan Bialis, as Arjun had learned, who had no representative. Thus they moved along with other Tiavan Bialis, migrating annually. Aren't you interested in women? Padma asked with a smirk while walking towards a bunch of men who sat with their mugs and were yelling at each other playing a game of patisi. The memory scarred him and chilled his bones how he had escaped death by playing patisi but lost. No, I'm not, Arjun said. Men then? That's rare. Why was it rare? There were those who liked the same sex back in Shambhala as well, but they didn't have the same courage to admit it to people. Arjun had known about his sexuality a while back, but he never intended to explore it since he had been stuck in a continuous chain of horrific events. Padma reached the mlechas while Arjun stood at the back watching her. The mlechas saw her but ignored her, but Padma coughed again to get their attention. What you want, girl? Said one of the men. He had a dark and thick beard, inky black in color. We are not interested. Padma didn't say much, but tossed a bag of coins onto the table. Everyone gasped at the amount, some turning their heads. While the Apsara sat wide-eyed, the main man stood up. Dattatreya, he shook hands with Padma. Padma, and this is my friend. Arjun. Dattatreya came forward and brought his hands forward. Dattatreya, he said again. Arjun didn't shake it back even though he knew it was a foolish thing to do. He had to be friends with them. But his gut said no. What is your problem, kid? Leave him, Padma interrupted. He has had a rough episode with the likes of you. Which village? Asked Dattatreya with a brutish grin as if he didn't mind the indecency of his ill. But then the man was drunk as a fish. Shambhala. Arg. Dattatreya nodded to himself, walking back to the table where his friends were counting the coins Padma had given to them. A man had come here, he said, old and scruffy. Came with a friend and said they wanted us to raid a village called Shambhala, but we said no. Arjun narrowed his eyes. An old man who wanted to take over Shambhala? Did you do it? Padma asked. Nah, it too much work for too less money. We live on easy work and blood. But with the money you gave us, we have no issues. Even if you ask us to die, milady. Great, that's exactly what you have to do. Where is the work at? Here at Indragarh. There was a shift of expression on Dattatreya's face. Here, not really our business, but we won't do. Dattatreya yelled in his language to pack the gold up and leave. Too less money. Why not here? What's wrong? Indragarh is hostile, and we will be homeless if we get caught. We need enough to sustain us while we escape. Padma looked at Arjun and whispered, I don't have enough anymore. Arjun knew she kept more of the antique gold coins for herself, but she was selfish and surely wouldn't part with more of them than she already had. Arjun didn't blame her. At the end of the day, she was doing them a favor and not the other way around. But then all said and done, he didn't worry about more money because Arjun was still musing over what Dattatreya had said about someone coming for them. Must be some megalomaniac, for all Arjun knew. As he had been drifting in his thoughts about the culprit, he swiveled his face, facing a familiar figure who had been hiding behind a table. Arjun noticed and realized it was none other than Kumar. Pacing forward, Arjun didn't stop when Kumar realized he had been caught. Kumar tried to move past the people, his small body tossing aside the others in the process. Arjun dodged a sudden oncoming wagon, feeling the brunt of this exertion in his ankle until he leapt onto Kumar, who was trying to make a run for it. Grabbing him by the feet, he tossed him against the wall and looked straight in his eyes. What are you doing here? What are you doing here? Kumar asked. You have been following me. Why? Kumar, Ratri's loyal servant, looked uncertain. Because Ratri knows what you all are up to and she wants to keep you in check. Ratri knew everything? How? She's not stupid and ignorant when it comes to all the long meetings you have with your so-called friends. And your friend doesn't have the common sense to keep his mouth shut. Bala. Arjun struck his head, sitting on the gravelly path. Tell her I'm sorry. She doesn't need your sorry. She needs a foolproof plan. Do you have one? The big man said it concerned explosives. And she got scared. Even though he tried his best to allay her apprehensions, Arjun couldn't believe Bala had gone behind their backs. And for what? A mere infatuation? What do you mean? She can help. Kumar patted his shoulder with a She wants to fund your siege wherever you plan to go with these bandits. And why would she do that? She has no choice, Kumar said, and also because of Lakshmi, of course. Arjun saw Padma had rushed outside as well. Perhaps she had seen Arjun storming from the tavern. Padma, when she witnessed Kumar in front of her, was instantly flustered. She didn't say anything and grimacing at Padma. We can have all the long silences once we get our work done, Arjun announced. What's happening now? Padma asked. Arjun patted the young yaksh. He just got our banker. Kalki was standing in the midst of a wasteland. Horror seized him as he realized the wasteland was similar to one that reminded him of Mahayudh, acres of deserted fields, sprawling with bloody corpses, crimson pools of semi-dried blood, dull smoky skies, and shattered chariots. Horrible as it was, Kalki found sympathy and synchronicity with his grief. This was a place of sadness. He thought most wars are fought out of overindulgence of desires. A smooth voice spoke from his behind him. Kalki turned to see a strange man with a flute and a yellow head cover. It had a peacock feather jauntily sticking out on one end. He walked casually with no marks and bruises on his body. What is this? Kalki asked Lord Govind, one of his avatars, the last of the ancients. What it exactly represents? Govind did not smile, even though there was a hint of sardonic humor on his face. Nothing, it's nothing. Kalki didn't realize why he was seeing Govind when he concentrated to go back and practice subconsciously with Lord Raghav. But Kalki didn't mean to ask Lord Govind, why have I been brought here? For this outcome is to come again. Govind swiveled his head towards the carnage, and there was a flash of irritation in his eyes before it died away. And you will be there? Kalki paused. What am I supposed to do? Govind walked over to the other side without answering Kalki's question. Kalki realized that Govind was kneeling down next to a corpse, which turned out was alive and in need of water. Out of thin air, Govind manifested water, and Kalki saw how exactly he did it. The blood that was spilt called in midair. As Govind closed his eyes, chanted till the ball of blood turned to a ball of water. With a swirling mass of mud from the ground, he created a jug and poured the water inside. He then tilted the man's head and made him drink it, and then the man turned into a corpse, as well his feet and arms growing cold and numb. And closed the man's eyes and turned to face Kalki. What we don't realize is that ego can make us feel better, but helping can make us inspire others. He stood up looking at Kalki. What should you do when the time comes? You should wait and you should learn. Never hasten your actions on a course, otherwise you will stumble. Whatever happens, happens for the best. For now it may sound ludicrous, but years later you will agree it was time well spent, each and every moment. What if they kill me before I reach my destination? Govind walked to Kalki, squaring up to him as he faced him. You need to be quick, remember that, and with a sharp flick of his hand Govind punched him. Kalki was astonished for a moment before he realized what Govind had just done. Also, you need to be smart. Words are mightier than swords. Remember that. Use them wisely and you'll be a better warrior than you already are. Kalki nodded. It was odd, standing in the empty wasteland with a man who was just a projection of his mind. He was saying what Kalki wanted him to say. It was how it worked. Sure, the images had a sense of coherence associated with the actual history, but they were elevated and enhanced by Kalki. And then, just like that, he was sucked into a void, jerked hard, his back straining as he realized he had hit the granite floor, staring at the pit hole of Indragar's prison. Kalki was glad the person in the next cell had been able to escape, although it made him jealous. Where were Arjun, Kripa and Bala? He was depending on them, but nothing had happened till now. Days had passed, and while he began to trail his long nails over the ground, trying to get rid of the boredom, he heard the sound of the sandals that had caused him so much worry. He saw, in front of the iron grills, none other than Durukti, looking at him wildly but without any guards with her. The one who stood at the gates was dismissed by Durukti. My lady, we have been instructed by Lord Kali to not move regardless of anything, one of them said. Durukti said, do you know me? Yes, my lady. Then you know I can cut your head off for speaking before me. Leave right now, for I must speak to the prisoner alone. The Naga shriveled with fear, and with a slight nod, he made way outside. Durukti sat at the opposite side of his cell, her lips looking full, her eyes wide and blossoming, and her face much paler than usual. Durukti was afraid. Kalki could see she was trying to hide her anger and fear. Kalki, regardless of the history between them till now, slowly staggered over to her side, trying to catch her gaze, which she refused to meet. I apologize for everything, she began. afraid to even move her lips properly. It's all right. Kalki couldn't hold a grudge against her any more than he could hold it against his brother. Everyone had a path, and everyone made choices, and it wasn't her fault that her choice had led to such consequences. We all are heroes and we all are evil, in one way or the other. Drupadi had tried so hard to avoid the war, but with every step, Kalki had tampered with and humiliated her, and yet here she was, apologizing to him. I should have listened. Kali has gone mad. He had never hit me, even though I have not been the perfect sister most of the times, and yet a few days back, he managed to do the same. He has never taken a rash decision, such as harming a village boy like you for no purpose, and yet he's doing it. He has got a twisted sense of reasoning behind it, and there is no method to his madness. Kalki, as far as he could fathom from whatever had happened between him and Kali, felt Kali was threatened by Kalki, and by threat, it seemed it was emotional and physical in nature. Someone must have warned him about Kalki. And on the basis of insane threats, Kali was taking the desperate actions of repelling Kalki. Soma was taking its toll over his head perhaps, or perhaps he was taking too much and being subject to all sorts of delusions. Don't worry. He tried to pat her arm, but it clanged against the bars and caused a small spark of noise. He pulled his hands back. Regrettably, he's taking me to the— I know, she said, disapprovingly, nodding her head. I suppose we need to do something about it. She paused. I apologize for everything. I apologize for coming to your village, hurting you, breaking all your homes. I shouldn't have done that. I can't forgive myself, much as I want to. I hate myself for doing that. I was thinking of protecting my brother. That was my goal. And I didn't care. I can't believe I let my love for my brother overpower me. It was all wrong. I know. I apologize for thinking that I would exhibit you for entertainment. I wouldn't have. I was mocking. Why? There are times when people do horrible things to someone, but they don't mean it. They just want a reaction perhaps. And that's what I wanted from you. I shouldn't have done that. I should have left you there. She paused, sniffling. He thinks I like you. And that's true. I liked you, but not in a romantic sense. I liked your passion, your integrity, your caring nature towards your people. It reminded me of all the things I want to see in a person, but something it is hard to see, since no such person truly exists. Everyone is selfish. You weren't. You cared. You actually did. I thought, what if this boy was on my side? How many wonders could we have achieved? Even in the realm of searching for selflessness, I was being selfish. What a hypocrite I am. Kalki didn't say anything for a while. Speak, Kalki. Kalki swallowed a lump, trying to choose the right words. It's all right. Whatever happened, it happened. But I need to escape. Drupadi, I know. I know you do. Drupadi turned, wiping her tears and facing him. Do you have any ideas? For a moment, Drupadi hesitated, but then nodded yes. She stood up, before proceeding to unlock the door that held him inside the cage. As it was opened, Kalki realized he had to have his chains opened as well, but Drupadi had bought a mini axe with her, with which she began to break off the chains. She struggled with it. Her feeble hands were not up for the task. Let me do it, Kalki said. Time was of the essence and Drupadi was delaying. She shot him a look of faux contempt. Never condescend the one who frees you. They have the power of keeping you inside as well. Kalki grinned as she finally broke the chains. Once it was loosened, Kalki himself tore the other parts of the chain and then grabbed the manacle around his neck, pulling it apart. Kalki turned to face Drupadi. Her pale cheeks had dried tears. Her coal was smeared, but she was impressed by Kalki's strength. It was over, and for the first time in the longest time, Kalki felt his ankles and his wrists were truly free. He began to massage them, as a grin swiped over his face. We must leave now before something happens, Drupadi said. As she was about to move for the door, Kalki grabbed her hands and pulled her to himself, embracing her tightly for a moment. Her body froze by what Kalki had just done, but then it warmed up, and careless hands ran across his topless back. Kalki liked her touch, but he knew it was the same touch that had murdered his Lakshmi. Kalki pulled himself back, struggling to pull up a smile as she looked flustered herself. Thank you. There was a sense of acute and heartfelt acknowledgement on his part. Drupadi nodded in return and began to move from the cage. Inmates began to rattle their cages, yelling and scowling at Kalki, who has been freed before even undergoing a trial. It was fun walking on his legs rather than being forced and dragged across the ground. Shoving the grill gates aside, Drupadi took Kalki to the field where the Nagas were standing as guards. Dodging them, Drupadi had managed to take him out in the open, right next to the door, when she froze in horror. Kalki realized why, when he peered down the alley. In front of them, fitted with torches, battle armor, axes and spears, Kalki saw Martanja. He didn't look the same like the last time. His eye defect had been healed miraculously, and he seemed to radiate vitality. He saw Martanja take a sip from a vial, which Kalki realized held Soma. It's happening all over again. A malevolent grin played across Martanja's face as he whistled, and the army of Rakshas separated on both sides, leading a figure to enter the scene and confront Drupadi. It was her brother. Hello, he rasped. He had gone completely bald since the last time Kalki had seen him, and his skin had turned blacker than the sky, with his crimson-tinted eyes contrasting it horrifically. Grab them, and don't kill the boy. Ali's red eyes stared at him. He has a trial tomorrow morning to look out for.